Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20. Excludes shops. T's and C's apply. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org.
Hello and welcome along to the GAA Postcast. I'm David Jennings and I'm delighted to be joined by former Galway hurling manager Anthony Cunningham and Paddy Ahern from our sponsors Paddy Power. Now, I have some great news and some not so great news. I suppose the great news first is that this is now a weekly affair. So we'll be running a GAA Postcast each Friday from now until the middle of September with some cracking guests like Anthony to try and find you a few winners each weekend. The not so great news is that the show will be presented by me most weeks. So if you start to talk with a thick nav and accent come the autumn, that will most certainly be my fault, so apologies in advance. We'll be taking an in-depth look at Galway's tussle with Dublin in a couple of moments and looking ahead to the 5 football clashes that are down for decision this weekend. But before then, lads, we simply have to have a quick chat about last Sunday's epic encounter in Thurles, as Cork went back to the middle of the last decade and delivered a phenomenal performance to deservedly beat the All-Ireland champions Tipperary. Now, Anthony, if I remember correctly, or rather, if Wikipedia is correct, were you on the receiving end of a similar type of shock in the 1986 All-Ireland final, when the Rebels defied all the odds to beat your Galway side? So you know more than most what it feels like. How on earth did Cork do it last Sunday, Anthony?
Well, I guess that performance, I suppose people of Cork knew was in them, and I suppose everybody in the country knew that they had very good hurlers, because club scene in Cork and the amount of players in the county of Cork is huge. And you know, it was mystifying, I suppose, for the past few years that they didn't put a performance together that would have them at the top table. You know, Conor Lehan, as an example, Harnedy, these players really, you know, have fantastic skill. Anthony Nash in goals, a brilliant goalie, and set up a huge amount of scores last Sunday. So I think everybody knew that massive talent, but it just didn't come to the table there for the last few years. And what a performance! And they're really there as a contender now and have huge amount of skill. But I suppose the big plus that Cork got was the introduction of their young players. Made the difference last Sunday, and really had a game plan to run at Tipperary, and the level of scoring from play and the type of scores they got were top drawer. You just couldn't fault the performance. So yeah, huge expectation down in the Rebel counties for sure.
And it was a kind of a bold, I suppose, selection process by Kieran Kingston, introducing so many newcomers, young talent, and he seemed to have great belief in them, didn't he? Even in the interviews leading up, I know a manager will always, praise his players and the young talent coming through, but to bring so many of them in to such a cauldron was a fair call on his part.
It was, yeah, but I suppose he had blood of them in the league, really, and he would have been on record to say that last year he didn't probably, he mightn't have been brave enough or didn't get a chance to blood as many as he wanted to. But, his own son, Luke Meade, they all played in the league in various games and had performed quite well. And I'd say weren't disappointed that they didn't, beat Limerick to get into a league semi-final. But had secured Division 1 for next year, but had big performances and beat Tipperary already in the league. Had been very, very good in Páirc Uí Rinn. Got turned over by Dublin, which is interesting for this weekend's form book, if you want a form guide on that.
That was the sole time I tipped them during the league, was that defeat to Dublin.
yeah, and because they had good form going into that match, and Dublin got a goal or two against the run of play that night, and Cork fell away, showed a bit of inexperience, I thought, with the younger players, as happens in league matches. But they definitely, they set their stall out pretty early in the league, and they'd have been happy with their performance for sure.
And moving across to you, Paddy, how has this affected the markets for the All-Ireland and Munster? I suppose there's been a huge shake-up.
Yeah, it was funny, as we were just saying before on air, we've two Galway men on the podcast, and I actually didn't realise what I'd done until an hour after I got home. I realised I'd made Galway our favourites for an All-Ireland Hurling Championship. I said, I'm going to have a lot to answer for now if this goes pear-shaped, that kind of. But it really just kind of shows that, Tip do still have a good chance to win the All-Ireland, but they're fired really back into the back door. There's no more kind of safety net. they're going to have it kind of tricky enough, really. Like, if you look at what kind of route they could have, like in their first qualifier, they could have kind of Wexford, Dublin, we'll say, if they lose their games, and I don't know, possibly even Kilkenny if you think so. I think Kilkenny will beat Wexford, but like the second round qualifier, then you're going to have the likes of Cork, Waterford, Limerick coming in, and then you're going to probably have the likes of one of Kilkenny or Galway in the quarterfinals. So, like, I mean, it's littered with danger there for Tip. They've gone out to 4-1. We've made Galway 10-3 for the All Ireland. We've cut Kilkenny a bit because there is looking to be. I think Ger Aylward was kind of back hurling well with Glenmore there during the week, and they look. Mick Fennelly played. They're looking to get a couple of guys back. So, like, we'll say all the protagonists around the top end of the market had shortened just because by the virtue of Tip drifting, just because they're going to have a tough route now, you know. And
I presume in Munster, Waterford are pretty short now, are they?
Yeah, Waterford are 7-4 at the minute. We have Clare in at 5-2. It's 11-4 on Cork. So that's, I mean, unless you think Limerick are going to have, you know, somewhat of a small bit of a shock, I suppose, and beat Clare. That's kind of what you're looking at the top end of that market. It's going to be interesting how.
We got flagged off there during the week, Paddy, for Galway going to the top of the market and being favourites for the All Ireland without having poked the ball in the championship. You guys at work having a crack at me there during the week. Then what's going on?
You weren't the only one to leave it. I'm getting the next one, I think.
I'm surprised they weren't made favourites the minute you stepped down, Anthony.
Very good. Yeah, that's a typical Navan slant, all right.
I suppose from my point of view, looking at the game last week, and I'll put it to you two experts, I don't think it's possible for Cork to play as well as they did again. It was flawless. It was almost as if they couldn't hit any wides. Everything that they tried worked. I suspect that we'll struggle to see a performance like that from Cork again in the championship. Am I wrong, Anthony?
Yeah, I just, I suppose a few weeks ago there, I tipped Waterford to win the Munster Championship because I thought they were going to be fresher and they'd be waiting in the long grass for, as I thought, Tipperary. Now it's going to be Cork. They're rested. They weren't over-pushed about the back end of the league. Really didn't play their strongest team against Galway in the quarter-final, semi-final showdowns, really. So they didn't really care about the end of the league. And they are very well rested. I spoke to Austin Gleeson there 2 weeks ago. They had a couple of weeks out with their clubs, and he said it was amazing the energy that they had when they come back in after a couple of club rounds in preparation for the match for the Munster semi-final. So Waterford will be I think physically very strong and probably have a better set of backs than, say, maybe the Tipperary backs presently. That's not to say that Tipperary won't turn around. Definitely think they'll bring back an extra guy in the backs in the defence. They will have to come with a plan to curb the pace of the Cork half forward. So I think Cork will show their hand a bit, and Waterford, I think, will maybe have that bit more experience to get over the line really the next day. So that could see Waterford in the Munster final, which I'd fancy them against Clare or Limerick. I think that'll be Clare. So you're looking at Waterford in an Ireland semi-final. I think the other permutation that's there as well, as you correctly said, that Tipperary now in the qualifiers, if Galway were to go on and win a Leinster title, you could see Tipperary coming through and going into that side of the draw as well. There was a big push. There would be a big push in Leinster to see whoever wins the Leinster title would avoid Tipperary, but that's now not going to be the case.
Mm. And the two questions before we leave last week's match, lads, is just simply who will win Munster and can Tipperary bounce back through the qualifiers? So Anthony, you first. Who's going to win Munster?
I would stick with Waterford to win Munster. I think Clare will, have had a recent good run out against Galway, beat them quite well there in a challenge match last Wednesday week. I do think there'll definitely be a spring in Clare's step, but I would fancy Waterford really because they have that bit more experience for in the real big matches in the last year or two. So I'd be going for Waterford, and I'd go for Galway narrowly to beat Kilkenny. But there's always a health warning really of Kilkenny when there's much talk about them. As you said, Ger Aylward scored 3-1 in a club match last week. He has been back in training and coming through at the right time now for Kilkenny. They haven't a massive backup on panel, but everyone that they get, like Jerry Edwards, like Michael Fenley, who might make the Wexford match, but maybe as a sub, or would definitely make a Leinster final date. Everyone to get back is a huge plus for Kilkenny. But I'd narrowly tip Galway. So Galway Waterford for me is provincial winners.
Okay, dokes. And Paddy, for you, who do you fancy to win Munster at this stage?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Waterford. I said it last week, and I think the biggest thing we were talking about Waterford in regards to beating Tip in the semi-final, and I was kind of saying that the best way for them to do that was to go 15 and 15 men and men. It's now a complete flip when they play Cork, because the thing they're going to have to do is go back to basics. They're going to have to go back to the game that's kind of served them well in leagues and Munsters for the last couple of years. Like Cork won that game last weekend, strangely enough, on their half forward line, and just really attacking that Tip half back line that's been kind of so solid in the last couple of years. But Galway kind of made a bit of a blueprint that just shows if you can kind of drag Ronan Maher, Pádraig Maher kind of around the field a bit, that it just really takes them out of their comfort zone. Like, Cork aren't going to be able to do that to Waterford. Waterford is just going to pack that middle, and if they just stop to the supply to the likes of Luke Meade, to the likes of Alan Cadigan, who I thought was really exceptional as well last weekend, I just don't think they're going to get away with it with Waterford. If Waterford come through that, they'll be favourites over Clare. They proved in the Munster Championship last year. I think they're a better team than Clare as well, so I think Waterford 7-4. It's still probably the bet.
So massive love for Waterford here in the GAA Postcast. So moving on to this weekend, lads, the key clash and the standout fixture, both in hurling and football, is Galway's clash with Dublin in O'Connor Park. And Anthony, you won 2 All-Irelands with Galway as a player in 1987 and 1988. And as a manager, you guided the Tribesmen to Leinster glory in 2012 and to an All-Ireland final in 2015 where he lost out to Kilkenny. So there's nobody in a better position to judge Galway right now than Anthony Cunningham. What do you make of this current Galway side? Are they ready to go that extra little step that they just haven't taken?
I think the biggest advantage, the biggest thing Galway are bringing to the party this year is that they're a bit more mature. I think winning in Ireland, you average age, for me, it should be 25, 26, maybe 28, up to that age to make a breakthrough. I do think if you have a very, very young team, your average age is 22, 23, I think that's an exception rather than the rule, really. You do have to be seasoned, and that bit more physical, and that bit more stronger, and that bit more streetwise. And I think they'll have all those attributes built up, since a lot of them are together now since 2012, definitely since 2015, with the likes of Jason Flynn and those. They're 3 years now on the panel, as an example. Conor Whelan entering his third year, as an example, as a young player. So they have a lot of experience. We all know the attributes of David Burke and Joe Canning, but the other players I think have gotten much stronger. Two Manions really playing, and are match winners at any particular day. So I think they have a lot. It's not just a one-man show anymore, really. They're more balanced, and they will be difficult to beat. Having said that, they can't take Dublin lightly. In 2015, Galway were extremely lucky. We were extremely lucky to have got an injury time equaliser in Croke Park. Didn't play quite well that day, but really turned it on against Dublin in the replay in Tullamore. And Dublin won't want to think of that day either, because they were really taken to the cleaners by Galway. But yeah, Galway have massive ability, and I think have a lot of confidence now. But a couple of things. They've shown their hand in a way that they're playing now, and that they're retreating their half forward line quite a bit to the middle third. David Buck maybe helping out the half back line, picking out Joe Canning and setting up scores, but definitely leaving a lot of space to their inside line, leaving huge amount of space to Conor Whelan, Jason Flynn, Conor Cooney. One would expect maybe would be back there this Sunday at full forward. So yeah, the way they play, somebody in the Dublin setup is going to have to have a plan to curb that, to cover off and protect their full back line. Otherwise, as we've seen in the league final and league semi-final, you'll get exposed.
Paddy, just a few prices on the match. I presume Galway are pretty hot favourites.
Yeah, they're certain enough. They're 1-4 with us, 12-1 the draw, and 7-2 Dublin. We've a 5-point handicap, 5-6 Galway. Handicap draw 5 points is 11-1, and if you want Dublin plus 5, it's 11-10.
And just a recent championship record on the two sides. Back in 2011, Dublin beat Galway 19 points to 2-7 in O'Connor Park. Then in 2013. Dublin beat Galway 225 to 212. As Anthony said, it was a draw, 117 to 20 points in 2015, and then the replay, Galway won 519 to 118. So Dublin don't have a bad recent record against Galway, Paddy. You know, two victories for Dublin, one for Galway, and a draw. Have the two sides evolved differently though in the last probably 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, like that's the big thing. So we'll say for that drawn match in Croke Park, like Anthony was right, Galway were kind of lucky to get out of that day. Like, it was a late Aidan Hart point to draw the match. But the prices for that are very, very different than we're looking at today. I mean, that game went off evens, I think, for both days, even down to Tullamore as well. Like, so there's a big kind of move of the dial to be kind of going. Galway being minus 5 point favourites. The difference is, like, from that Dublin team, I think, like, I counted I think from the first day that started against Dublin, there's only going to be 6 guys, maybe 5.
Well, gone are Shane Durkin, Peter Kelly, Paul Ryan, Johnny McCaffrey, Niall Corcoran, and Mark Shute is gone. So, like, there's a lot of core players there that have gone from Anthony Daly's era, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely, and Danny Sutcliffe being gone as well is probably might be the biggest one. Like, so they are missing a lot of guys. I mean, some of them are more important than others. Like, I think, like, the one thing I would look at Dublin here for this weekend is I actually think their backs are pretty solid. So, like, Chris Crummy had a very good league. Liam Rush is obviously Liam Rush. Owen O'Donnell is a really, really good hurler. He's actually, I think, one of the best fullbacks in the country, to be honest. So I don't think they have too much of a problem. We'll say kind of 2 to 7. It's from midfield and upwards where Dublin are potentially going to struggle, I think. Yeah, like, as I said, I know you're missing a few guys, but it's a huge kind of move of the dial to be going from even money 2 years ago to Galway minus 5. But, like, there's no question about it. Dublin are going to have to come with a big performance here, even maybe to stay within that 5. But, you know, I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility. Like, they're getting an awful lot of criticism, and there's an awful lot of, like, it's a very kind of pessimistic attitude around Dublin. But I think that I actually think that they will come with a bit of performance this weekend.
Anthony, what type of game are we going to see here? Is it going to be? Are both sides going to be a little cautious? Obviously, Dublin won't want this to turn into a high-scoring shootout. That's the last thing they want. Are we going to see it quite cagey in the first half?
Yeah, I think if Dublin go 15 on 15 and play, shall we call it a traditional game, I think they'll suffer really, and they'll have to drop guys, either drop a midfielder that'll help out their half-back line and drop one of their, you know, maybe Liam Rush might play a bit more defensive than and out. You know, if Joe Canning will be on him really, and if he follows him, and Joe would play a lot towards midfield or off the 11 position and going to the wings. If they, as I said earlier, if they don't cover the full back line, you know, Galway will pick out. They will at ease pick out their inside forward line to set up goals. So they will have to be cagey, I think, and they'll have to have a plan, and they'll have to have, you know, they'll have to be more defensive, I think, than they'd like to be. But I don't think they have I don't think they have any other option really. I'd worry about their forwards and their ability to get goals. And in championship matches, you've got to be able to get goals. They were even Stephen for quite a bit of the match in the relegation match against Clare, but never really threatened for a proper goal chance compared to Clare, who got 3 goals that day. So, yeah, they have gone with the youth policy. Huge questions really in Dublin of why the likes of Danny Sutcliffe, the shooters aren't playing really. And I suppose for hurling people, you know, everyone wants to see the top players playing. And Jerry's been, you know, some say maybe too brave, but that's his call really in bringing in the amount of young players, and maybe some of their older players, maybe the Paul Ryans and others, they're maybe, you know, not keeping them as you know, impact subs, or as experienced Johnny McCaffrey, another player there would have been, you know, a huge leader on the field. So they've been very brave in what they've done. They put you know, he's put his neck on the line really for this one. But I think Dublin, particularly with their last day in Tullamore as well 2 years ago, will have to play a bit more defensive early on. Otherwise, they know that the Galway forwards can expose them. Other side of that was that Dublin are going to have to run at the likes of Garage McInerney, who may still have question marks. He's a really strong player, really a massive improvement in Garage, excellent fella. But if he's ran at, might be questions there. Aidan Hart if he's ran at. So definitely, they're going to have to play a running game up front. If that would also be an angle I think that Dublin are going to have to bring to it.
So lads, there's a lot of people going to be listening here, and they're going to be saying, "We can't back Galway at 1-4." What is the bet here? What is the way into trying to find a suitable wager, I suppose, at a suitable price? Anthony, is there anything that sticks out for you?
Well, that's why Paddy drives a big car there, you see, and gets well paid by Paddy Power. It's impossible at times. I even look at Galway to win by four points for me would be the maximum that I go on the handicap with them. I know you've called it probably 5 points there on the handicap, but I'd go with Galway to win by 4 points. I think backing Galway 1-4 isn't really that prudent, really, because it could be a draw, or it could be a point or two either way. But I'd still be confident to Galway to win by 4 points, but I wouldn't go at 5, 6, 7 or 8 points for a Galway win. I think that wouldn't be prudent.
Okay, dokes. Paddy, if we get a price maybe on Galway to win by the winning margin, I suppose, is there a price on them to win by 3, 4 or 5 points perhaps, or something like that?
You're getting kind of short, to be honest. Like the -3 there, 1-2, but we should have an alternative winning margin there. Just 1 second here.
I love the way Anthony is so adamant, because usually you get people on here and they say, well, such and such might be the handicap. Anthony is straight to the point. Galway to win by exactly 4 points.
I mean, you asked me there, asking you to will Galway win by more than 4 points. I would say I wouldn't be putting them at winning 5, 6, 7 or 8 points for sure. No, but I think they'll have enough in the tank, and still they have enough experience now as well to be able to close out a match and be comfortable in winning by 4 points. But there's a big difference by winning with 8 versus 4, and I don't think Dublin will collapse. As you said, they're going to bring huge energy. They're a very young team, and they're going to be fighting for their lives. And Ger and the boys are really being quiet about this. Rumours have been that they haven't played that well in challenge matches, played offly until the more one-even winter occasionally, but form, really, as we've seen last Sunday, doesn't hold up in too much in the challenge matches. But they hadn't barred their first match against Tipperary in the league, which was they were pretty poor that day. The rest of their performances against Kilkenny and Waterford and Cork, who they beat down in Páirc Uí Rinn, have been quite okay. So So they're and as you pointed out, have an excellent full back. They'll want Liam Bush to play, to really have a game of ages. Really, that to go back to his form of 2 or 3 years ago, he was the best centre back in the country almost. So they'll need those types of performances. Question mark at times over their goalie. Yeah, you'd have to say, even in the league, fluffed his lines on a couple of occasions. I don't know who, there's a toss-up really of who they play.
Yeah, but, I think Maguire might be suspended. He got sent off against Kilkenny, so it's probably going to be Conor Dooley, I'd imagine.
Yeah. But Conor, as we've seen, compare that to Anthony Lash last Sunday, he was a huge influencer in winning that match for Cork. His puck-outs were really, really top drawer. Probably the best at placing the ball now. 60, 70, 80, 90 yards in front of a player. I don't know if there's another goalie as good as Anthony at doing that now.
Yeah. So, Paddy, what's your views on a potential bet in this?
Yeah, well, just back to Anthony's bets as well. So we've kind of have two. If he wants the exactly 4, we're actually on site at 13-1. But if he wants an alternative winning
exactly
margin,
4, he knows he wants exactly 4. 13-1.
We'll watch the liability just grow on that for the next couple of days. So, I actually think though, in regards of we have an alternative winning margin there, Galway 1-5 at 15-8, which probably would suit what Anthony.
You'd say you like the sound of that, Anthony, do you?
Yeah, sure, go with that, so.
I was actually, just as Anthony kind of pointed on about how Dublin's league wasn't that bad at all, and it was just kind of looking through their matches there yesterday and found an interesting stat. They had 6 games in the league, and they actually led at half-time in 4 of them. There was only 2 games.
Don't be ruining my column.
I didn't know that.
Actually, the 2 they didn't was the Tipperary, the first game of the league in Croke Park, where they were just kind of they just got blown away. And it was only a point they were down to Kilkenny in Parnell, but they led in every other game. So the only kind of bet, at a decent price that I kind of saw around here was maybe Dublin half-time, Galway full-time. Like, they really they don't have much coming off the bench. I'd say fitness is probably a bit of a slight issue as well. So if I had to have a bet, I'd say probably maybe at a decent price, Dublin half-time, Galway full-time is around the 9-2, 5-1 mark.
Gutted, absolutely gutted. You're just after completely stealing my thunder.
Oh, lovely.
There was two. I was looking at that as well, and there was a bit of 11-4 Dublin to lead at half time. And
I saw that
means
as well.
It's not quite a hard view in the second half. I thought that was a great.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And the other thing, and last week this proved a disaster. I tipped Cork to score 21 points or less, which I thought was I could not see them scoring 20 points, and my bet was literally gone by about 10 minutes, but I thought under 46.5 total match points. I think this is going to be a little bit cagier, and I just don't see it turning into the type of match that it was last weekend. I think it'll be very, very different. That
all depends on Dublin. If Dublin play for the 70 and keep going, I don't see it getting out of hand, but you'd just be worried if it does kind of go to 50 minutes and there's Galway emptying the bench, and there's obviously a lot of competition for places that they won't let up either,
Okay, doke. So we're thinking that it's going to be relatively close. Galway just to come through at the end, and as Anthony said, Galway to win by exactly 4 points. So that's the end of part one. We have a competition for a €25 or £25 free bet, courtesy of Paddy Power. If you just tweet the answer with the hashtag Postcast, and the question is, which I don't know if either of our panelists will get: who was the top scorer in last year's hurling championship? Shh! Don't say anything, lads. Shh. I know both of you probably don't even know it, but who was the top scorer in last year's hurling championship? So tweet your answer with the hashtag Postcast, and the winner will be announced on next week's show. So that's the end of part one.
Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20. Excludes shops. T's and C's apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
Welcome back to our GAA Postcast, now a weekly initiative, so you're going to be hearing us every Friday from now on, and it's time to look at the football championship with plenty of action this weekend. And before we look at this weekend's action, it's key to just have a quick reflection on last weekend's action, where we saw Monaghan, Mayo and Donegal all in action, so a couple of All-Ireland contenders in there. Paddy Ahern from Paddy Powers, what was the main thing that struck you about last weekend?
Yeah, the main thing I really thought was just kind of coming away from it just being really underwhelmed with the Mayo performance more than anything else. Like, they went through and they got the job done. How they covered the 8-point handicap, I'm still trying to scratch my head wondering, because they were 3 points up with about 4 minutes left. It's kind of typical Mayo, really. They just went out, they got the job done, and they'll obviously have to up it for Galway, but I don't think anyone's blown away by them, to be honest.
I have a theory on Mayo, Paddy. I am 100% convinced, and have been for the last 3 years. Now, I know they've beaten teams by big margins in Connacht. I think Mayo play far better against better teams. I think the way they're set up, their tactics, their half-back line, everything about Mayo tells me that they're going to be far more of a threat. I think I would much prefer to be on Mayo to beat a big team rather than back them to beat the handicap against a smaller team. Agree? Disagree?
Yeah. No. I mean, it's hard to really find any fault with that. Like, when you actually look through their results for the last couple of years as well. Like, I mean, that was kind of what I touched on as well last week. That their best performance, I think, last year without a doubt was probably the 2 All-Ireland finals, really, because like they played quite well.
They were desperate against Tipperary, like desperate.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Even in all those kind of, even all those qualifiers on the way up, I remember that like the Fermanagh game down in Castlebar was a rubbish game. But like, the Aidan O'Shea penalty in that, like they just, they don't seem to. You're right, they don't seem to set the world alight against poor teams. But like, if you were judging it on just complete form last year, you wouldn't have thought they would have been able to get so close to Dublin, but there's definitely a lot of merit in what you're saying, I think. Yeah,
I'd be pretty sweet now on Mayo to beat Galway, and I think they'll probably be a little bit bigger after the game. Did their price drift a little bit for that Galway match?
Not really. Well, it was just, I mean, we obviously didn't have it up beforehand, but it was kind of as you were, really. So we kind of had it in our head that we were going to kind of take them on. It is in Salthill, and they are going to have to go on. And, Galway did beat them last year, and I'd say Galway are a little bit stronger than they were last year. So we're actually up on site now, 4-7, Mayo 7-4 Galway. And I think we're going to lay Mayo at that. But yeah, we'd definitely be happy to hold it for a few quid anyway.
And just very, very quickly, is there any outright bet that struck you after last weekend? Perhaps, Cillian O'Connor obviously did his chances of being top scorer in the championship. No harm. Is there anything that stood out for you?
He did. Yeah, he did it. No harm. All right. There was one I was kind of looking at an absolutely huge price. If you look at this,
I like the sound of this now. You're after building this up.
This market last year now, this could, it could be one of those value losers, but. Three, I think there was a dead heat among a few players last year for the top goal scorer market, and it was only 3 goals that won it. Now you have a guy there for Louth last week, Owen O'Connor, who scored 1-2. He's kind of perched at the edge of the square. Louth are definitely going to have the Meath game, and they're definitely going to have a qualifier. So if you look at the qualifier, they have the likes of. They look like they could have a chance of playing maybe Waterford. They could be playing Antrim. They could be playing Longford and Sligo, which they wouldn't be out of those games at all. He's already got a goal scored, and I did see 100-1 out there for him for top goal scorer in the championship.
Nice.
Like I say now, it's just kind of might go into the category of one of these value losers. But if he definitely has 2 more games, possibly 3 if Louth go on a bit of a run, he's going to play full forward every day. I've definitely seen worse 100-1 shots.
And for people that have never heard of him, so basically people that don't live in Louth, what's his name again?
Owen O'Connor. Owen O'Connor is his name.
Owen O'Connor for top goal scorer in the football championship at 100-1 from Paddy Ahern. 100-1. We like the sound of that. So looking ahead to this weekend's action, I suppose the big game, and if you can call it that, is Derry against Tyrone in Celtic Park. And my reputation's on the line here, having tipped Tyrone for All Ireland honours. How do we bet on this, Paddy?
Yeah, so it's on Celtic Park, so obviously Derry at home. Derry at 4-1. The draw is 10-1. Tyrone are 1-4. There's a 4-point handicap with Derry at 11-10. Handicap draw is 9-1, and Tyrone -4 is 5-6.
Okay, this finished 3-14 to 12 points last year in favour of Tyrone. Are we likely to see something similar, or is there a little bit of a kick in Derry?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, it's very similar in kind of attitude to kind of the Dublin Galway hurling match, in the sense that everyone is writing off Derry completely, as they are with Dublin. I think last year, I'd be inclined to think that last year was a bit of a freak of a game, to be honest. If any Derry team are going to go out 2 years in a row to get beaten plus 10 points in Tyrone, there's something massively wrong. In the sense, I know that Derry are still, you could kind of argue that there's a lot of their best footballers in the county not playing, but they're still, it's still Ulster Championship, they're still at home, they're still going to come with, they still have decent players in that team, like Mark Lynch and that kind of thing. I'd be surprised if Tyrone were going to absolutely hammer them here, to be honest.
And you, overall, you're not 100% convinced by Tyrone, I know that. And obviously Mickey Hart has made a couple of changes to the side. A couple of not so well-known names coming in there, the likes of Pádraig Hampsey, Conal McCann, Kieran McGeary. It's a new look Tyrone side, but there's still the stalwarts in there. Sean Cavan at full forward. You've got Matty Donnelly named at corner forward. Obviously he's not going to stay there. And Colm Cavan at midfield. The spine of the team is quite experienced.
It is, but it's still, even with all the guys they brought in, the same kind of potential failings are still there. It's he still hasn't brought in a scorer, like you said, Matty Donnelly won't kind of start corner forwards. There is actually a chance he will, because he did it in the league, and I just think it's a really strange move. If he's kind of it just kind of shows that it shows to me a small bit of desperation, really, that if you're going to push one of the best midfielders in the country, if you are going to play him kind of up closer to goal just because you need the scorers that badly that there's no one else in Tyrone. Like, I know they've got kind of, I think Ronan O'Neill is just still kind of injured, and Conor McCaskey had a really bad injury from the start of the year. But like, I think that's just going to be the same feeling with Tyrone for most of the year, that they just don't have a complete out and out scorer. Like he won't even trust Darren McCurry to play here, which you would have thought a couple of years ago he would be kind of scorer in chief for Tyrone. So like, it's still
all right,
very
Paddy. All right,
Pat.
that's enough of the Tyrone bashing. Okay, enough of the Tyrone bashing. What's the best bet in the match?
The best bet, I think that like Derry did score in the league. They concede a bit, but they tend to score quite a bit as well. And I thought the only bet that I was kind of coming across was, I think Emmett McGuckin, I don't know where he's going to be named, but I think he's going to play quite close to goal. I think he might be play for any kind goal scorer. He's around, I think there's around 5-1, 11-2 there. And I do think Derry are going to score a goal, and I think he might score it.
Okay, I disagree. I can't see them getting a goal. I thought even in last year's championship match, they struggled to even the points that they scored were from distance. I thought they really struggled to break down Tyrone, and I thought around the even money mark, no Derry goal was a great price. And one other player that I have to mention, my human equivalent to my tent or yours, my guilty pleasure, Niall Sludden, 10-1 to be man of the match. This lad, as Paddy, I think you know, he is a star. This is the perfect platform to see the real Niall Sludden on Sunday. Derry are likely to pack their defence in decent numbers, I'd imagine, and his pace, I think, could be able to cut through them. So Niall Sludden, 10-1 for man of the match, and hopefully he'll give my 80-1 poke for player of the year a good start. Am I right? He's 10-1 for man of the match?
Yeah, 10-1 for man of the match. Yeah.
There we go. So Niall Sludden for man of the match, and no Derry goal at around even money would be my two bets on that. Now, we won't talk about all the individual football matches, Paddy, because we're running out of time. But just a quick mention of Cork and Waterford, which the only real game on Saturday. I suppose we're starting this weekend with a whimper rather than a roar. Anything that stands out for you in Waterford v Cork?
Yeah, like we were a 10-point handicap here at the start of the week, and we've gone to 11 now. So I think like it is a big ask of a handicap. I think for back in Cork to be winning by 12 or more. But I think that Waterford scored a few goals during the league. Like I think they got about 7 or 8 goals, and I wouldn't describe Cork as watertight. So there's a bit odds against out there. You can back 6-5 Waterford to score a goal, or 6-4 both teams to score a goal. Either of them would be decent plays, I would think.
Officially, Waterford. Well, the stats say that Waterford are the third worst team in Ireland. They finished third from bottom in Division 4. Now, as you said, they scored 677, but they conceded 973. In Division 4 of the league. That's really, really worrying, I think. 973. They conceded 9 goals in the lowest tier of the league. I just have a feeling that this Cork side, which are no great shakes in their own right, but I just think they have the forwards to really do damage to Waterford, who are struggling defensively and certainly struggling to stop goals going in. I think Cork will cover that handicap. I think I could see it being a bit of a rout, so it'll be Cork to beat the handicap for me. And just a quick line on the other games, Clare v Limerick and London v Leitrim. Paddy, anything there for you?
Yeah, we're 1-3 Clare, 8-1 and 10-3 Limerick. I give Limerick a little bit of a squeak here. It's going to be hard to win the game, but like I think this Limerick team is better than the team that only lost 3 points to Clare last year. The likes of, we'll say, Ger Collins is back. He hasn't been playing for Limerick the last couple of years. Seamus O'Carroll, anyone's watching the Dublin Championship, he's playing really, really good football for
absolutely, yeah.
Castleknock. There's a bit of +4 Limerick around there, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them cover that handicap, to be fair.
Okay, doke. So a strong vote to Limerick there in the handicap. And London Leitrim?
And London Leitrim, the prices on this kind of changed on its head when found out that unfortunately Eamon Mulligan is out for the year with his third cruciate. It's been really bad luck for the guy, unfortunately, and that kind of improved London's chances. And there are kind of people looking to kind of jump on that. I still think Leitrim are favourites. They're starting a good few kind of under-21s in the forwards, but it wasn't a bad under-21 team. That Galway under-21 team actually got a bit of a fright off them in Connacht that reached the All-Ireland final. I would think Leitrim there's a couple of prices out there. Like if I had to pick a winner of the match, I'd say Leitrim win it. And there is one guy, there's very few prices out there, but there's a fella I saw playing Sigerson, Ryan O'Rourke, was playing for Maynooth this year, and he impressed me. If you get a decent price on him for first goal scorer, I'd say he's probably worth the play around. If you were to get maybe 8, 9, 10 to 1.
To me, this is like, you know, when you go to a race meeting there on an evening, maybe Kilbeggan or something of a Friday evening, you're walking through the turnstiles and you always get this whisper for a horse. Oh, don't forget to back this, don't forget to back this. I'd say in the last 7 days, I've had about roughly 10 to 20 people texting me, ringing me, telling me that London will beat Leitrim. This apparently is the whisper in the long grass. So London...
Well, the whisper last week was Carlow.
It was,
so,
yeah. There was also a bit of a whisper for New York as well, but that didn't go according to plan.
Yeah.
But so it's quite interesting. A lot of Shrewdies back in London. I think you could see that price shorten quite a bit before the game. So, Paddy, the best bet on the football coupon this weekend, you think might be?
Best bet in the football coupon. We'll go with Limerick +4. If you can get odds against Limerick +4, I think.
Limerick +4 against.
I think they'll be competitive against.
Claire, the two I like are No Derry goal and Cork to beat the handicap against Waterford.
This will not be beaten.
Okay, lads, so it's time for our weekend GAA naps, and this is the first weekly in the weekly series of our GAA Postcast, so it's important that we get the treble up, so no pressure at all. So, Anthony, the best bet of the weekend in the GAA is?
Well, you've talked me into it there. I think Galway to win between 1 and 5 points. We'll go with that.
So Galway to win between 1 and 5 points, a 15-8 with Paddy Power. Paddy Ahern from Paddy Power is your best bet of the weekend?
Yeah, I'm sure a couple more will kind of pop up. There's some of the games there isn't a lot of markets up, but there will be kind of later on, I'd say, with other companies. But I think at the minute the bet of the weekend might be Laois +8 against Wexford. There's a bit of odds against around on it. Laois. I actually heard during the week they were at a warm weather training camp in the last few weeks. They've come to the round robin and they're kind of warmed up a bit from that. And Wexford I don't know if Wexford are a team that just go out and hammer people, to be honest. So I think Laois +8 is definitely worth the play at odds against.
Yeah,
and my one is for No Derry goal in their clash with Tyrone at Celtic Park. I think they're going to struggle to break down that Tyrone defence. So the treble is Galway to win between 1 and 5 points, Laois +8 and No Derry goal. So that's it for this week, folks. Thanks a million for joining us for our first weekly postcast. We're going to be here every single Friday from now until September, so you're going to be absolutely sick of us. Don't forget to join us next Friday. My thanks to Anthony Cunningham for his great insight on the hurling, and to Paddy Ahern from Paddy Powers for his great insight on both the hurling and the football. Mr. Versatile. Thanks a lot.
Paddy's gearing up for the GAA All-Ireland Football and Hurling. For all live TV championship games, it's money back as a free bet if your losing first goal scorer scores a goal anytime. Max £20. Excludes shops. T's and C's apply. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.